Distinct honor of introducing and welcoming the Honorable U.S. Department of Agriculture Secretary Tom Vilsack to Cedar Rapids. Secretary Vilsack is a former governor of the state of Iowa, as we all know, and we're so honored to have the governor in the great state of Iowa, but in particular in Cedar Rapids. The governor has had many important positions within the state of Iowa. He was a mayor and had a very important role in that city. Obviously, the secretary was also governor of Iowa, as I said, and now as a cabinet secretary. As city manager, when I was in the city of West Des Moines, I had the opportunity to interact with the governor and the governor's office, and I can tell you that what you all know, that there was no harder worker, no more tirelessly dedicated to the cities of Iowa and the people of Iowa than at that time Governor Vilsack. So I appreciate that. Also, I say there was a while back, when I was in my prior city, I had the opportunity to get on an airplane, and I guess the governor travels coach, because he got stuck very oddly sitting next to me. And so at first I wasn't going to bother him, but then I of course did. And he had his notes with him, and he was getting ready for a State of the State address. And being kind of nosy, I looked over, and he was writing down at the top of his notes, the Great Compromise. So that was a tough time in Iowa. But the governor, at that time, Governor Vilsack, was just absolutely committed to bringing the people of Iowa together, looking for compromise, looking for solutions, and I just have the greatest of respect for what he did for the state, and now, of course, at this level as Secretary of Agriculture. So please welcome Secretary Vilsack. We're pleased to have you home in Cedar Rapids, and thank you so much for all of your support of our city.
Thanks very, very much. It's great to be back at Cedar Rapids, but I will tell you, I had a flashback here in Green Square Park. 25 years ago, I was running for governor, and I came to Cedar Rapids, and there was an event here at Green Square Park, and I was promptly told to leave the park because no politicians were allowed to politic on that particular occasion. So I'm glad to be back. This is a great day. It's a great day for the country. It's a great day for Cedar Rapids. It's a great day for Iowa. Yeah, I've been telling people as I travel across the country that one of my favorite books is the book called The Hidden Life of Trees. And I don't think we really fully appreciate how remarkable trees are. Because as beautiful as the auditor mentioned, the magnitude and the glory of these trees, good example right here, what's even more interesting and what's more exciting is what happens underground, between trees. You see, in a forest, you could have an oak tree and a walnut tree and a cherry tree, and they talk to one another. Their root systems intertwine. And when one of the trees may be having difficulty, may be undernourished, the other trees will share their nourishment so that that tree lives. They communicate. They create a sense of community through their root system. And I think it's a powerful metaphor for the importance of investing in trees and committing ourselves to looking for ways in which we can create healthy environments with trees. And perhaps by doing so, we too can create a sense of community and connection. You know, obviously Cedar Rapids has had its fair share of disasters. And not just disasters that impact a neighborhood here or there, but disasters that have impacted the entire community. what impressed me this morning as I listened to those who are involved in the relief initiative is how Cedar Rapids consistently figures out a way to commit itself to community, consistently looks for the opportunity to rebuild into a better community, a stronger community, a more resilient community. It's really remarkable. And it is reflective, frankly, of what occurs throughout this great state, of which I have significant knowledge, but because of the job that I'm in now, I get to see this in rural communities all across the country. It's really a compelling story of people helping each other. And that's one of the reasons why it was important when the Inflation Reduction Act was passed that there was a sense that it needed to be available to all of America, not just to a select few, not just to folks who can figure out how to do a grant, but to communities that in the past had been marginalized, as the chair indicated. Communities that perhaps couldn't figure out exactly how to participate. That it was important for us in recognizing the need that is great to ensure that the implementation of programs allowed for those marginalized and underserved communities to feel a connection and to feel that their government understood their challenges. I'm excited about today's announcement. Our urban and community forestry program at USDA happens to be the only federal program that is committed and dedicated to enhancing and expanding the nation's urban forest resources. And now we have an extraordinary tool, the Inflation Reduction Act, which provided that mission area with significant resources. Just to give you a sense of this, its traditional budget is about $36 billion a year for the entire country. And now we're talking about $1.5 billion, which represented a challenge to the mission area. How do you make sure that those resources are invested wisely? How do you create among a very small staff the capacity to accept applications, to score applications, to review applications, and then to make decisions, and then how to provide the appropriate oversight, Mr. Auditor, on making sure that those resources are invested wisely? Well, our team's done a remarkable job. They first and foremost indicated it was necessary for us to identify the equities and the values and the principles and the priorities for this program so that people would have a sense of what we were looking for. We knew that equity was going to be an important component, but we also wanted to make sure that as we made these investments that we would create more resilient communities, because unfortunately the difficulties and challenges we've seen with weather are not going to go away. We're going to continue to be challenged by Mother Nature. So we want to make sure that our communities are more resilient and more capable of withstanding what Mother Nature may have in store. We understood the importance of trying to figure out ways in which we could mitigate and perhaps deal with extreme heat events. And certainly we have seen that across the country this year. We thought there was also an opportunity to create a new workforce. A workforce of young people who in fact are dedicated, and we heard about this today from Jacob Broom, who's here from Kennedy High School. He reminded us that his generation is quite interested in making sure that we are making these investments. And we need to make sure that his generation is prepared to accept the responsibility of being able to do the jobs that will be created in this opportunity. So there needed to be a workforce development component, a youth engagement component to this effort. And we wanted to bring in institutions, minority serving institutions and other organizations and groups that would basically benefit from participating. So we sent out the word about this opportunity. We were hopeful that we would get a few applications. We had no idea how popular this program was going to be. And Cedar Rapids could take a lot of pride in having been a successful grantee. From 48 states, the District of Columbia, a variety of tribes, and a few territories, this small band of very dedicated Forest Service workers received 842 applications, requesting $6.4 billion for that $1.5 billion that was available. Applications came from cities, they came from state government, Jeff, they came from nonprofits, they came from universities, they came from a wide variety of parts of our country interested in investing in urban forestry. They not only requested money to plant trees, but also for the technical assistance, Mayor, that's so important in knowing how, where, not only to plant, but how, where to maintain and ensure that those trees grow into healthy trees. So over the course of several months, those applications were reviewed, and in the interim, the decision was made that every state needs to participate in this program. So we advised Jeff and his counterparts in the other 49 states that we were going to make an allocation to state governments and their departments of natural resources, so they in turn would have resources and money to be able to go to smaller communities that may not have been successful in this application process or may not have even felt they could participate. So the state of Iowa received $2,250,000 to Jeff's team, and I'm sure that they will find a good home for those resources and benefit the people of Iowa towards the goal that he outlined. Today, we announce the awarding of $1.13 billion, $1,130 million, in 385 grants. There are 373 individual grant applications that are being awarded today. And then there are what were called 12 pass-through grants to large organizations that will use resources to amplify and to magnify the work that we're doing. Arbor Day Foundation, Trust for Public Land, organizations of that nature. Iowa as a state and communities within Iowa, in addition to the resources provided to the Iowa Department of Natural Resources, benefits and resources and grants will be awarded today in addition to Cedar Rapids, which is receiving $6 million, which is the largest Iowa grant. Cedar Rapids and their partner Trees Forever looking forward to investing those resources over the next several years consistent with your relief program. And hopefully that continues to see and build momentum so additional contributions can be obtained from the private sector and nonprofit sector who really see the vision that DeBear laid out and her team has laid out as actually happening and the significance of it. But in addition to Cedar Rapids, Decorah, Auditor, got it, Dubuque, Ames, Council Bluffs, Des Moines, and West Des Moines, Jeff, are all receiving grants. The total amount Iowa will receive is $15.7 million between those communities and the Iowa DNR. Just as an aside, do the math. Iowa represents about 1% of the American population. You're receiving a little bit more than 1% of the $1.13 billion. I'm just saying. So Iowa has fared well. Grants in 48 states. The grants range from anywhere from $100,000 to the pass-through grants that can be as much as $10 million. You all know about the relief program. It's been explained, but what really struck me was how comprehensive and how excited people and how passionate people are for this program in Cedar Rapids. And I certainly appreciate the fact that a good part of the resources are going to be focused initially on those areas that in the past may not even have had the benefit of trees, or if they did, they were fairly scarce. But the city of Atlanta, for example, they've got a program where they're receiving a grant, and they're going to focus on building a sustainable workforce with their resources. The city of Detroit has a Greening of Detroit initiative where they, like Cedar Rapids, are empowering volunteers. They think they can get as many as 25,000 individuals in the city to plant trees, help plant trees. So it's a significant opportunity today. And we know the benefits of tree planting, and we've heard it today. Beautifying neighborhoods, encouraging more vibrant parks, even having the entryways to cities and the median strips, welcoming people to a community with beauty, making sure that the playgrounds allow for what the auditor suggested is something every child should have, is the opportunity to wonder about the amazing tree in the playground. Folks have talked about the importance of the tree canopy and the reduced temperatures. It could be anywhere from 11 to 19 degrees reduction with a proper tree canopy. I mean, you start thinking about the savings on utility bills. We heard earlier today also an impact and effect on reduced crime rates. We know that these trees are helping us mitigate the consequences of a changing climate, and also will impact positively health benefits, especially for those who may be suffering from asthma and other impacts of pollution. We know that this program will not only create jobs itself, but also will spur additional economic development, which is always important, and will be advancing equity. You know, the president has two compelling visions that he often reminds us of when he speaks about the work that we're doing domestically. One is to rebuild the middle class from the bottom up and the middle out, and that's essentially what you do. When you create economic opportunity in marginalized communities, you create the opportunity in the sense that there is a way up and out. There is a way to benefit and to be part of a growing middle class, which is at its core the strength of this great country. He also sees the importance of having America in a leadership position in creating a clean economy. And certainly in Iowa, there's a tremendous opportunity, not just in terms of this urban and community forestry effort, but in terms of the entire scope of the Inflation Reduction Act. Our NRCS folks have an amazing amount of resource to work with farmers to embrace climate-smart agriculture practices, which can include trees and agroforestry, which can increase significantly income opportunities for those farmers, especially small and mid-sized farmers who struggle. We had a record year in farm income last year, but a significant amount of that income was essentially enjoyed by a small percentage of our farmers. And the president believes that it's necessary for us to figure out ways in which farmers can benefit in multiple ways from their farming operation. This Inflation Reduction Act helps do that, and trees and agroforestry will help do that. And that forestry effort also involves potentially the conversion of agricultural waste and wood waste into a new industry, a sustainable aviation fuel industry, which will complement our ethanol industry. So there are just enormous opportunities here with the Inflation Reduction Act, not only to rebuild the middle class, but to also create that clean economy that allows the United States to provide international leadership in this effort. So I'm excited to be here today. I'm excited and very encouraged by what Cedar Rapids has done. I applaud the effort. It is not, it just reminds me of the strength of Iowa, the notion of community, which is so strong in this state, the notion that when a disaster strikes, the moment it is over, the rebuild begins. And we see this, as I said, all across the country. And I want you to know that the Department of Agriculture is going to continue to be a partner with communities like Cedar Rapids in this urban forestry and community forestry effort. We're going to continue to focus on planting more trees here and around the country. We have a goal similar to your goal, Jeff, of planting 1 billion trees by 2030. We're working on that. We're doing several 100,000 tree plantings a year through the Forest Service. We're trying to manage our forests out in the west so that we don't have these historic and catastrophic wildfires. So we're all in. We're all in on trees. We're all in on urban forestry and community forestry. And we certainly congratulate Cedar Rapids for a tremendous application, a tremendous commitment that you all have made. And I look forward to coming back, Mayor, in a year or two, and seeing the progress, and over the course of time, understanding that this community will rebuild better, stronger, and brighter. Thank you all very much.
Yes, thank you so much, Secretary Vilsack. On behalf of the city of Cedar Rapids, we've already said thank you.